Before we begin, I thought it would be fun if everyone lets me know in the comments where they're watching this video from. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's start today's episode. The Chernobyl disaster, the most catastrophic nuclear accident in history in terms of both cost and casualties, remains one of only two events classified as a Level 7 on the International Nuclear Event Scale, the highest rating. The other being the Fukushima disaster in 2011. Thousands of people risked their lives during the event, and over the following 20 years, the cost of Chernobyl's aftermath grew to over $100 billion. Chernobyl is still considered uninhabitable today, but is now open to tour visits and is said to have low on harmful levels of radiation. The Chernobyl disaster has been linked to the number of increased radiation levels in the majority of countries across Europe, along with being the cause for multiple human deaths and diseases. However, before the actual event happened, people began seeing a mysterious creature. Reports of this creature increased during the month of April in 1986. Many people who survived this event had a similar encounter to each other. They witnessed what they could only describe was a large black bird-like creature. It's estimated this creature had a 20-foot wingspan. Some even said they saw it on the day of the event. What's strange is that no further sightings of the black bird were reported after the meltdown. Some have said that due to what was going on, people were seeing nothing more than shadows and illusions, that many think the blackbird or Chernobyl could have been the same creature spotted in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. This creature goes by the name of Mothman. The first recorded Mothman sighting took place on November 12, 1966. This happened near West Virginia. The Mothman is believed to be over 6 feet tall and has large glowing red eyes. It's said to be able to fly very fast and has a keen interest in humans. It was also seen leading up to the collapse of the Silver Ridge, with some suggesting this creature was trying to warn people of the impending doom. The description of the blackbird of Chernobyl and the Mothman are similar. For example, both creatures are reported to have a large wingspan, and both of them appeared before disaster happened. The blackbird of Chernobyl hasn't been witnessed since, and there are still some people looking answers for what those people witnessed. Some have put forth the theory that these animals come to help people in times of need, and that if you ever witness a creature you are unfamiliar with, it would be a good idea to leave the place you're at. What do you all think of this story? Do you believe these people encountered a phantom bird? If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries and enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up to stay updated on all our latest content. Moving on to the next mystery. Nikola Tesla, often seen as confident and brilliant, was also haunted by numerous irrational phobias that caused him to exhibit unpredictable and strange behavior. One of Tesla's most noticeable phobias was that of his disgust with fruit. During one of his initial investment meetings with George Westinghouse, peaches had been placed on the table in which they were dining that led Tesla to slump back into his chair and nearly collapse in fear and disgust. This quickly led to George Westinghouse shouting at the waiters to quickly take the fruits away, forming a close friendship with Tesla after Tesla remarked that by removing the fruits, he had possibly saved his life. Another incident of the inventor's strange phobias was that of an incident involving a temporarily hired secretary that sat outside one of his labs in New York. As Tesla had walked past the secretary, he began to gag and quickly ran inside his lab. Soon after, another assistant informed the secretary that she had to leave at Tesla's request. Tesla, citing his fear of pearls, explained that the sight of the pearls around her neck had almost made him feel ill and dizzy. Moving on to the next mystery. Despite their isolated and primitive lifestyle, the North Sentinelese tribe has shown remarkable health, with no genetic defects and superior physical condition compared to the global average. This phenomenon is puzzling to researchers, as small isolated tribes elsewhere typically experience genetic issues from inbreeding, leading to health and longevity concerns. This mystery was only made all the more strange when back in 2004 a large tsunami has struck the island that many believed had completely wiped out the Sentinelese people. Not only did the Sentinelese people survive, but despite a small population surviving, still no genetic defects were shown after repopulation and growing numbers from the small families. This could very well mean that unlike humans of the modern day, the Sentinelese people have only dominant traits that do not allow the recessive ALS to surface that can cause birth defects or genetic defects of any kind. making them stronger, healthier, and more capable to survive much harsher conditions than modern humans. This could also help to explain why the Homo sapiens species came from a theoretical Adam, and Eva's recessive negative traits had not existed yet in the genus, essentially meaning that early humans could have been far more advanced than humans of the modern era in nearly all regards. The Sentinelese people's ability to recover from such small genetic pools suggests they may hold secrets to healthy genetic traits that have been lost over millennia of recessive alleles and mutations in the broader human population. Their isolation could have preserved unique genetic information that might offer insights into human health. Moving on to the next mystery. The Corona Mall kidnapping incident involved two men who were captured on mall security cameras chasing a woman through a parking lot. They forcibly placed her into the trunk of a car, while nearby shoppers observed but didn't intervene. Later, a black Toyota sped up, and the woman, upon seeing it, ran in the opposite direction with the vehicle pursuing her. Her reaction suggested she was familiar with the men involved. Despite the fuzzy images, the woman can be seen running down a parking aisle as two men jump out of the car and chase her. One man threw the woman over his shoulder, carried her back to the car, and put her in the trunk. To this day, the kidnapping remains a mystery. Moving on to the next mystery. The mystery of Vimanas stems from their descriptions in ancient Hindu texts like the Vedas and the Mahabharata. These texts detail Vimanas as flying palaces or chariots, said to be used by gods and their human allies to travel across the skies and even into space. Some modern theorists speculate that these descriptions may be referencing advanced technology from ancient civilizations, raising intriguing questions about the possibility of ancient aviation. The descriptions of Vimanas in the Hindu text vary, but they are generally described as large, cylindrical, or disc-shaped vehicles with a dome-like top. They were said to be powered by various means, including the use of mercury, and were capable of traveling at great speeds and heights. Some texts describe Vimanas as having the ability to become invisible or to change shape, and some also suggest that they were equipped with weapons. There are many references to Vimanas in the Hindu texts, including stories of wars fought using these flying machines. The Mahabharata, for example, describes a battle in which the hero Arjuna rides a Vimana to fight his enemies in the sky. Another text, the Samarangana Sutradhara, describes the construction of Vimanas and includes detailed instructions for building them. While Vimanas are generally regarded as mythological, some have proposed that they could be based on ancient Indian technology or an advanced understanding of aerodynamics. Despite these theories, there is no definitive evidence to support such claims. As a result, Vimanas continue to be an intriguing and enigmatic element of Hindu mythology. Moving on to the next mystery. Amy Robechtel, a 24-year-old fitness enthusiast, vanished without a trace in 1996. She had recently married Steve Bechtel, a fellow fitness lover, and the couple moved to Lander, Wyoming. Steve pursued his passion for rock climbing while Amy focused on running and teaching fitness classes. Unfortunately, Amy's disappearance would become one of the most puzzling unsolved cases. They had purchased the house that they were planning on moving into, and Amy had a long list of tasks to complete in order to finish the process. On July 24, 1997, Steve departed for a rock climbing trip with one of his friends, while Amy left to teach a fitness class and complete some of her long list of errands to get the house ready to move into before planning to take a jog on Loop Road in the Shoshone National Forest. When Steve returned after a long day of rock climbing, Amy still had not returned, but he was not immediately concerned considering her long list of items that she planned to accomplish that day. He visited with his neighbors, Todd and Amy Skinner, around 8:15, noting that she was not back yet, but not seeming overly worried yet. However, at around 11 in the evening, when there was still no sign of Amy, he returned to the neighbors and recruited their help as the search for Amy Robechtel began. The Skinners drove through several of the roads that Amy typically took when jogging and located her white Toyota station wagon abandoned on Loop Road at approximately 1 in the morning. However, no trace of Amy could be found around the car, even after the search expanded to include over 500 people searching over a 20-mile radius over the course of 8 days before the search unfortunately had to be called off. The only trace of Amy that was ever found were her sunglasses, to-do list, and car keys which were located inside of her car. It seemed that she likely had her wallet with her wherever she was. Amy Robechtel was never found, and no other clues led to the resolution of this unsolved mystery, leading to her being declared legally deceased in 2004, 7 years after her disappearance. Her husband, Steve, was temporarily investigated as a suspect, but he was never charged, although some still believe that he is the one to blame for Amy's loss of life. Investigators searching the home found several journals and poems that Steve had written with violent themes and such. Later investigators also admitted that his plans for the day included several holes. Additionally, Amy's brother, Nell, disclosed that he had noticed a strange bruise on her arm several weeks before her disappearance. When he brought it up to her, she claimed that Steve would occasionally get a little rough with her, leading Nell to privately believe that he was hurting her. Despite Steve Bechtel's belief that his wife, Amy, was either abducted by a stranger or struck by a car, leading to the driver hiding her body, no concrete evidence has ever emerged to explain her disappearance. To this day, Amy Robechtel remains missing, with her case unsolved and her fate unknown. Moving on to the next mystery. Orang Pendek, which translates to short person in Indonesian, is a cryptid believed to live in the rainforests of Sumatra, Indonesia. Descriptions of this mysterious creature vary, but it is generally described as a small, ape-like humanoid, standing around 3 to 5 feet tall. Witnesses often report seeing the creature with long hair, a human-like face, and walking upright. Despite numerous sightings over the years, no physical evidence has ever been conclusively proven to exist, keeping the Orang Pendek firmly in the realm of mystery and speculation. It's described as a small, bipedal, ape-like creature that stands around 3 to 5 feet tall and is covered in dark fur. The Orang Pendek has been sighted by the local people for centuries, but only in recent years has it gained attention from explorers around the world. Eyewitnesses describe it as a very agile creature, able to move quickly through the trees and disappear into the dense underbrush with ease. There have been numerous sightings and encounters with the Orang Pendek, but no concrete evidence has been found to prove its existence. However, many locals believe in its existence, and some have even claimed to have interacted with it on a personal level. The strangest observation is that these creatures have facial features that closely match those of a human instead of a monkey, which has resulted in the belief that the Orang Pendek could be a distant, lost human cousin, possibly with a common ancestor. A group of archaeologists studying the area found remains of a small species that was human-like and reported them as Homo floresiensis. From what the locals of Indonesia say, the Orang Pendek has high intelligence and can hide from being detected while watching people, making them fear it for its clever nature. One native reported his encounter, saying that the creature lifted its arms to stand with the intention of threatening him, which is an ape's natural instinct to intimidate threats. Other encounters have reported the same, but no cases of attacks have been reported. Debbie Martyr, a former British journalist and researcher, decided to investigate the creature. Back in 1944, she traveled to the Sumatra jungles in the hopes of discovering the creature. Though she couldn't capture a photograph of the creature, the witness was confident that what she saw matched the descriptions of the Orang Pendek. Despite the extensive efforts of researchers to track and study the cryptid, the Orang Pendek continues to elude detection, leaving its existence shrouded in mystery. Moving on to the next mystery. Jackie Sutton, a dedicated activist and humanitarian worker, was found dead and alone in a restroom at Istanbul's Ataturk Airport in October 2015. Her sudden and unexpected death immediately drew global attention due to the unusual and puzzling circumstances surrounding it. The news spread rapidly, prompting Turkish authorities to launch an investigation into the incident. However, the official conclusion left many who knew Sutton deeply skeptical, claiming that the findings did not add up. The investigation determined that Sutton had taken her own life in the restroom. Turkish media outlets reported that she became distraught after missing a flight to Iraq and lacking the funds to purchase a new ticket. This explanation was strongly contested by Sutton's friends and colleagues. They argued that Sutton, known for her resilience and strength, had spent years working in challenging environments such as Afghanistan and Iraq, making the idea of her taking her own life over a missed flight seem implausible. Many believed her death was the result of foul play, rather than suicide. However, in June of the same year, Sutton had expressed fears that she might be targeted by ISIS. She also shared that she had experienced other unsettling incidents in the past. For example, during the 1980s while reporting in Baghdad, she claimed she had been imprisoned by a spy. Additionally, she narrowly survived a bombing in Baghdad. Despite these dangers, Sutton remained steadfast in her dedication to her work and the causes she passionately supported. The ruling of her death as a suicide only deepened the disbelief surrounding her passing, adding to the unusual and troubling nature of the incident. The Monkey Man of New Delhi was a mysterious creature that allegedly attacked and injured several people in New Delhi in 2001. Descriptions of the creature vary, but it was commonly said to be about 4 feet tall, covered in dark fur, with a monkey-like face and glowing red eyes. Witnesses claimed it had the ability to scale walls and leap over buildings. The first reported sighting of the Monkey Man occurred in May 2001, and over the next few months, hundreds of people claimed to have seen the creature or been attacked by it. Some reported that it had scratched or bitten them, while others said they had been paralyzed by its gaze. Panic and fear spread throughout the city, and people began to take precautions such as sleeping on their roofs or arming themselves with sticks. The Indian government launched an investigation into the phenomenon, but despite conducting numerous searches and employing traps and teams of experts, they were unable to find any evidence of the creature. Skeptics suggested that the Monkey Man sightings were simply mass hysteria, fueled by rumors and urban legends. The Monkey Man of New Delhi eventually faded from public attention, and the mysterious creature was never conclusively identified. Despite numerous reports and speculation, the incident remains unsolved, adding to the intrigue surrounding this enigmatic phenomenon. Moving on to the next mystery. Millions of people around the world believe in aliens and the afterlife, with these topics often sparking intense debates. While some view them as intriguing possibilities, others remain skeptical, making these subjects perennial sources of fascination and division. More than 1 in 2 people in the UK, Germany, and the US believe there is intelligent life out there in the universe. A recent YouGov poll shows that over 55% of Americans believe in aliens. The same poll also showed that over 50% of people in the UK and Germany believe in aliens. Stephen Hawking described the search for extraterrestrial life as the most exciting quest in 21st century science. Our total lack of evidence for intelligent life contradicts the incredible low chance that ours is the only planet where it exists. Considering there is over 10 trillion planets in our galaxy alone, you can't blame people for believing in life outside our planet. Most people believe the only reason we haven't made contact yet is because intelligent life is too far away and that our technology is not advanced enough for communication. Mayor Ivan Stepik believes that he may well be in possession of an alien's head, one that has been dug up from a graveyard in Croatia. The remains are twisted and soft with a mouth-like shape in the middle. That's the only part of the alien they believe to have been recovered. Another section which appears to contain a heart-like object has also been discovered. One worker from the cemetery said the following: "It scared the life out of me to see that thing staring up at the ground." One thing the workers did notice was the ancient artifact and smell. One of the workers said the following: "This strange thing smelled very sweet, like aftershave or perfume." The mayor had this to say about the alleged girl: "I know it sounds crazy, but we can't think of any more rational explanation for what he found." As with anything like this, there's always a few possibilities. But it's worth getting it checked out by scientists to see if a proper explanation can be given as opposed to just guesses. Chances are other rational explanations may come up, but it's still a fun discovery. What's interesting about this discovery is that it doesn't match the typical alien head. Whenever stories like this hit the news, you normally see the traditional movie alien. This object certainly seems intriguing. What do you think it could be? Could it be something unearthly that the workers accidentally stumbled upon? Or is there a more straightforward explanation behind it? Moving on to the next mystery. Kenny Veach, a seasoned hiker from Nevada, vanished during a solo trip in November 2014. He had informed his family he would be hiking for 2 days in search of a cave, but never returned. Known for his frequent desert explorations, Veach was experienced in the terrain of the Mojave and Great Basin deserts. His disappearance remains unsolved, adding to the mystery of his last hike. He was a minimalist or ultralight hiker. Even though he would camp out for days at a time, he only ever brought the bare minimum supplies. He rarely brought a GPS, compass, or map. Although he had successfully completed many hikes in his lifetime in that manner, it is still an incredibly reckless way to hike. Veach had a YouTube channel under the name Snakebit McGee, where he had uploaded a few videos but mostly used it to watch and comment on others. His channel name came from his tendency to pick up snakes whenever he found them. He was bitten by a rattlesnake, which is where his tag name came from. On June 2014, he commented on a video titled Son of an Area 51 Technician. In his comment, he stated that he had found an M-shaped cave about 7 miles out from Nellis Air Force Base in the Sheep Mountains, which are north of Las Vegas, Nevada. He explained that he was an experienced tiger who regularly found abandoned mine shafts and explored them, picked up rattlesnakes for fun, solo hiked across mountains, Odo would fear to go, and even came close to Area 51. Despite all this, he never went into the M cave. He claimed that as he began to enter the hidden cave, his entire body began to vibrate. The further in he went, the worse the shaking became. He suddenly grew very scared and quickly ran out of the cave and hiked back to his car. His comment sparked an interest with others who encouraged Beach to go out and discover the cave again, this time filming the entire hike. He agreed and left to find it a second time, carrying along with him a video camera and a 9mm handgun. He posted a video of his hike, but unfortunately was unable to find the mystery cave. The viewers criticized him and provoked him to go out a third time. On November 10, 2014, he left for an overnight trip, but never came back. After 2 days and no return, his family contacted authorities who conducted a search. In the beginning of the video he had previously posted, he stood by an abandoned mineshaft while narrating his mission details. It was at that mineshaft that search and rescue found his cell phone, 10 days after the search began. Over 30 search and rescue volunteers conducted 3 separate searches and a helicopter flyover to no avail. The trail went cold after that. Many conspiracy theories cropped up. Did he fall down the mineshaft? Or had he stumbled upon a hidden entrance to Area 51 and discovered a dangerous military secret? Was he just a reckless hiker who injured himself? Or did he reach the M cave and find something ominous inside? A woman claiming to be his girlfriend later posted a comment on his last video that stated she did not believe he had had an accident. She explained that he had been suffering from depression for some time and had quit his job the year prior, so she argued that he had most likely taken his own life. So far, no conclusion has yet to be drawn about Kenny Beach's mysterious disappearance. Interestingly, someone on social media came forward and said that they found the entrance to the cave, noting that when you look at it from above, the M shape can easily be seen. They said the following: "This photograph is interesting because it seems that the M shape is only visible from certain angles. And I think this is why the cave has never been officially found. People's view may be obstructed, or they may have walked past it without realizing. Some of these cave systems are hidden, and unless you happen to be looking at it from the right angle, the cave's entrance could take on a completely different appearance. It is difficult to provide an exact number of caves in the Mojave Desert, as many are still unexplored and undocumented. However, it is estimated that there are hundreds of caves located throughout the Mojave Desert region spanning across California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. Many of these caves are located in remote and difficult-to-reach areas, and some have been designated as protected areas due to the presence of sensitive or endangered species within them. The actual number of caves in the Mojave Desert may never be known due to the vast and rugged terrain of the region. The man said that the area is hard to reach and doesn't even know if it's visible from the ground. However, they did say in another comment that they want to go out there and investigate it for themselves, saying that they might bring their drone with them in order to help identify where this particular cave is. Kenny said the following about the mysterious cave: "I solo hike across mountain tops that most people wouldn't dare go. I have been in more caves than I can count, and I play with rattlesnakes for fun. But this one particular cave was beyond anything I had ever encountered. I've been doing this sort of thing for over 20 years. I go where no one goes, and I never take anyone with me. I find skulls of all shapes and sizes, and occasionally I find really old animal traps. I hike over mountaintop after mountaintop and sleep on peaks under the stars. Sometimes I have to scale giant cliffs to get myself out of a jam, but I always make it back. I'm beat up and tired, and my pack is almost always heavier than when I left. I had to be rescued only one time by a helicopter. I'd blown out my left leg at the top of the mountain, and I only had a cup of water left to get me 20 miles back to my truck. It was also over 100 degrees, so I have a very good safety record." End quote. Oddly enough, a woman claiming to be his girlfriend posted the following comment on one of his videos. She said the following: "I am the girlfriend that Kenny spoke of in the video. There are so many posts and I had no idea until a friend let me know. So many people are wondering what happened and guessing different things. You are heartfelt about the sadness around what has happened with Kenny. He has not been found, and I feel that he probably will not be found for many months, if ever. I want to share what I know and feel about what happened so that you might bring some closure and understanding in your own lives. Kenny absolutely loved hiking in the desert. It was his very favorite thing to do. We hiked and camped together all over the Nevada desert, sometimes 9 hours in a day. We found many abandoned mining towns, usually referred to as ghost towns by Nevada hikers. We explored many caves and mine shafts. We were always careful how we explored them, but Kenny was a bit more daring than I was. We wore snake guards, sun protective clothing, used walking sticks, brought enough water and food for the hiking hours, and had extra water and food in the car. I want you to know that I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he took his life. He battled for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor. He quit his job a little more than a year before he disappeared. The search for him was started within a couple days of my call. Over 30 search and rescue team members searched 3 different times on foot. 1 helicopter flyover was done, and there was no trace of Kenny or any of his camping things." End quote. Although many users believe that these comments were the real deal, others said that it could have been some random person posting about Kenny and said that there's no way of identifying whether this person is genuine and stated that they could have just created an account. Oddly enough, it's reported that hikers have found various strange caves throughout the United States, but park rangers have come forward and said that he most likely didn't prepare for the hike, or that the comments from his girlfriend were true, and that he headed into the desert and ended things. The Mojave Desert is considered dangerous for several reasons. Firstly, the desert is extremely hot and dry, with temperatures that can easily reach well over 100 degrees during the day and drop to below freezing at night. This can cause dehydration, heat stroke, and other heat-related illnesses for those who are not properly prepared. Additionally, the Mojave Desert is home to several venomous animals, including rattlesnakes, scorpions, and spiders. Hikers and visitors to the Mojave Desert should exercise caution around wildlife, seeking medical help if bitten. The desert's vast and rugged terrain, with limited water and remote areas, increases the risk of getting lost or stranded. Additionally, some parts of the desert contain military bases and testing sites that are off-limits to the public. Trespassing could lead to legal issues or encounters with hazardous materials or weapons, so it's important to stay informed and avoid restricted zones. Moving on to the next mystery. Earlier this year, more discoveries were made in Egypt's Valley of the Kings thanks to well-funded archaeological teams using advanced technology. In July, reports confirmed the identification of an undiscovered area near the valley, believed to be the tomb of Pharaoh Ai, who ruled from 1327 BC to 1323 BC. The team uncovered 4 foundation deposits in the region, and further radar readings suggest the presence of Ai's tomb and surrounding tombs, providing new insights into this ancient royal burial site. Due to this recent find and the publicity received, another research group in the area has begun publishing their findings from KV-40, a tomb located within the Valley of the Kings where the archaeological team had discovered several dozen mummies back in 2014. Given all the recent activity, it's possible that more tombs and areas will be uncovered in the coming year. Many research teams are competing for additional funding, and anonymous sources have hinted at secret tombs and further radar readings in areas that are still difficult to access. This suggests that more discoveries may be on the horizon, potentially shedding new light on Egypt's ancient history and the Valley of the Kings. Moving on to the next mystery. The mysterious photographs of an expansive road along the coastline of Sakhalin Island sparked numerous theories about a potential lost civilization. The strange appearance of the road, with no clear explanation of its origin, led some to suggest that it could be the remnants of an ancient society whose existence had been forgotten by history. These theories, though speculative, continue to intrigue researchers and enthusiasts alike. A massive stone road suddenly appeared on the shores of Sakhalin Island. Although it was only visible for a brief period of time, it attracted enough attention for hundreds of photographs to be captured. The unexpected appearance startled the residents of the island, and many of them said that the mysterious road appeared out of nowhere. Sakhalin Island is situated in the Ring of Fire, an area renowned for its significant subduction zones. This accounts for the frequent occurrence of intense seismic and volcanic activity on the island. It shares its southern border with Japanese islands. It is important to note that certain individuals who question the origin of these enigmatic structures argue that a natural cause is the most plausible explanation. However, it should be acknowledged that while this explanation may account for their formation, it does not provide insight into their actual creation. The massive road can be observed to bear a striking resemblance to those constructed by ancient civilizations, but it has been noticeably weathered by the relentless force of the sea. Therefore, numerous individuals have expressed the desire for a comprehensive geological or archaeological examination to be conducted on this enigmatic formation. It is important to mention that in close proximity to that location, along the coast of Japan, there exist enigmatic underwater structures known as Yonaguni. Various researchers have suggested that these submerged structures are associated with the mysterious civilization known as Mu. The expansive highway along the coastline of Sakhalin bears a striking resemblance to the Bimini Road, believed by some to be the remnants of the mythical Atlantis found in the Caribbean Sea. The massive highway remains enveloped in mystery, with little information about its origins, adding to its enigmatic nature and fleeting presence. Moving on to the next mystery. In 2020, 41-year-old David Fontana first met 24-year-old Carol Multesi in a hotel room in Milan. Carol, an OnlyFans creator who went by the alias Charlotte Angie, had hired Fontana, a food blogger, banker, and photography enthusiast, to take provocative photos for her website. At the time of their meeting, Fontana was already married. Following their initial photo session, Fontana separated from his wife and began dating Carol in what he later described as an open relationship. However, in January 2022, this relationship took a tragic and violent turn. During what was supposed to be a filming session for Carol's OnlyFans content, Fontana brutally killed her. He struck her 13 times on the head with a hammer before slitting her throat with a knife. After the murder, he dismembered her body. Initially, he attempted to burn her remains, but when that failed, he purchased a chest freezer to store what remained. In 2020, 41-year-old David Fontana first met 24-year-old Carol Multesi in a hotel room in Milan. Carol, an OnlyFans creator who went by the alias Charlotte Angie, had hired Fontana, a food blogger, banker, and photography enthusiast, to take provocative photos for her website. At the time of their meeting, Fontana was already married. Following their initial photo session, Fontana separated from his wife and began dating Carol in what he later described as an open relationship. However, in January 2022, this relationship took a tragic and violent turn. During what was supposed to be a filming session for Carol's OnlyFans content, Fontana brutally killed her. He struck her 13 times on the head with a hammer before slitting her throat with a knife. After the murder, he dismembered her body. Initially, he attempted to burn her remains, but when that failed, he purchased a chest freezer to store what remained. Eventually, David Fontana confessed everything to the paramilitary police in Italy. Initially, after the victim's body was identified, Fontana admitted to knowing Carol but denied any involvement in her disappearance or death. However, his actions continued to raise suspicions. Authorities tracked his movements between January and March and conducted a search of his residence. Inside, they found black trash bags identical to those used to cover Carol's body, along with DNA evidence linking him to the crime. They also discovered the chest freezer containing her remains, leading Fontana to quickly change his story. He claimed that Carol's death was accidental, stating he had killed her unintentionally during consensual intercourse and had dismembered and hidden her body out of panic. Fontana was charged with dismemberment, concealing a corpse, and aggravated first-degree murder. However, New details about the crime surfaced in the summer of 2023, revealing that Carol had told Fontana she wanted to break up with him to move to Verona and reunite with her 6-year-old child. Despite the horrific brutality of his actions, his deception in pretending she was still alive, and his initial lies to the authorities, Fontana avoided the life sentence sought by prosecutors. While he was convicted of murder, the court ruled that the crime was neither premeditated nor excessively brutal, a decision that sparked outrage given the severity of his actions. Troublingly, the judges noted in their ruling that Carol's killer, David Fontana, had felt taken advantage of by her, describing her as young and impulsive. They further justified their conclusion by stating that Fontana was driven to take her life by, quote, the realization that he had lost the woman he loved and that she had used him. Unsurprisingly, this reasoning and the sentencing have sparked significant controversy. Carol's family, their legal representative, and women in government have all expressed outrage over the judge's written statements and the perceived leniency of the sentence. Giuseppe Fazio, the senior judge presiding over the case, defended the decision, saying, "If people don't understand the motivation behind the sentence, then that's certainly not my problem." He added that he would have handed down the same penalty even if the defendant had been a nun. For his horrific and depraved crime, Fontana was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Moving on to the next mystery. On May 20th, 1871, 21-year-old Flora Shawcross Stone, a divorcee, married 41-year-old Edward Muybridge, a photographer originally from Surrey, England. Born on April 18, 1830, Muybridge came from a moderately prosperous family, with his father being a successful merchant. However, his father passed away when Muybridge was just 13 years old. Despite this loss, Muybridge appeared determined to achieve recognition and success. At the age of 22, Muybridge left the United Kingdom in pursuit of new opportunities in the United States. However, his marriage to Flora was far from harmonious, likely due to their 20-year age gap. While Flora was occupied with entertaining guests and attending the theater, Muybridge was deeply engrossed in his photography work and reading complex literature. He often spent weeks away from home on photography trips, further straining their relationship. On April 14, 1874, the couple welcomed their first and only child, a son named Floridew Helius Muybridge. Though it's unclear exactly when Flora started having extramarital affairs in the early years of their union. Major Harry Larkins, an Evening Post reporter, was a close friend of the family and had rapidly become close to the single mother. When Larkins started a new work at a mine near Calistoga, California, Muybridge apparently learned of the affair and believed it was over when he sent his wife to live with relatives. But when Flora's maternity nurse approached Muybridge in October 1874, she disclosed that the couple had been communicating and exchanging love letters during her pregnancy, some of which the nurse had in her possession. She also had a picture of the child, and Flora had written little Harry on the back, which made Muybridge think he wasn't Floridow's real father. Muybridge went in search of Larkins on October 17th. He said, "I have a message for you from my wife," when he found him. Then he shot Larkins close to his heart, at point-blank range. That evening, the man passed away, and Muybridge was taken into custody. When a journalist approached Muybridge the next day, he appeared to be in a good mood. He said he was treated well by the authorities, and that he had a positive influence on the other prisoners since he stopped bullying and harassment and reprimanded swearing. He claimed to have no remorse and that he thought males of his family would understand his decision to kill his wife's boyfriend. He was composed as he described his plan to kill Larkin. The trial for Muybridge started on February 18, 1975. Due to the photographer's altered behavior following a brain injury sustained in a bus accident in 1860s, his attorney entered a not guilty by reason of insanity plea. In support of him, a number of close friends testified that he had undergone a significant transformation from a calm, well-mannered person to a erratic, frantic person who frequently erupted into violence. While Muybridge maintained throughout the trial that his acts were planned and purposeful, he frequently showed uncontrollably strong emotional outbursts that supported the defense team's case. In addition, the defense team claimed that Major Larkins was a dishonest guy who boasted to his friends about having seduced Flora. They said that Muybridge's deception had driven him frantic with rage, and that the photographer was driven solely by his love for his wife. The love letters were admitted into evidence, and the nurse who possessed them was also questioned on the witness stand. Ultimately, Mybridge was found not guilty due to justifiable homicide, despite the fact that adultery was not a legal defense for murder. Moreover, the jury was expressly instructed by the judge that Larkins was not entitled to enforce the law on his own, even in the event that he had successfully wooed Flora. The jury had 4 possibilities to select from when deciding on the verdict and the appropriate sentence. Not one of these solutions included a murder that was justified. Despite this, the jury contended that their decision was consistent with human nature even if it did not follow the law. They said it was impossible to punish someone for acting in a way that they themselves would probably act in a like situation. After his acquittal, Edward Mybridge resumed his life as usual. Shortly after leaving the United States, he embarked on a planned 9-month trip to Central America, focusing on his photography. Meanwhile, on December 14, 1874, Flora filed for divorce, citing severe cruelty as the grounds. Her initial petition was denied, but a second appeal was eventually granted. However, before the divorce could significantly impact her life, Flora died unexpectedly in July 1875. Despite paying for Florido's upkeep and arranging for his transfer from a Catholic to a Protestant orphanage in 1876, Mybridge spent very little time with his son. As an adult, Florido reportedly bore a striking resemblance to his father. He worked as a gardener and ranch hand, but tragically died in 1944 after being struck by a car in Sacramento. Edward Mybridge himself passed away in 1904, succumbing to cancer in his hometown of Surrey, England, where he had retired. Moving on to the next mystery. First Lieutenant Felix Eugene Moncla, a United States Air Force pilot, disappeared without a trace in 1953 during an air defense intercept mission over Lake Superior. This mysterious event, now known as the Kinross Incident, is named after Kinross Air Force Base, where Moncla was temporarily stationed at the time of his disappearance. On the evening of November 23, 1953, the Air Defense Command Ground Intercept Radar Controller at Troy Air Force Base identified an unidentified target on the radar. In response, an F-89C Scorpion jet was dispatched from Kinross Air Force Base to investigate. As the Scorpion jet approached the target at speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour, ground control observed the target changing its trajectory. They guided the jet to intercept it, and for 30 minutes, the aircraft attempted to close the gap while the unidentified object continued to accelerate over Lake Superior. On the radar screen, the distance between the 2 blips representing the jet and the target gradually decreased until they merged into a single blip. Ground control initially assumed that Moncla's jet had simply passed over the target and that the 2 blips would separate again as the jet moved to the other side. However, this never happened. The single blip on the radar suddenly vanished, leaving the screen completely blank with no trace of its previous presence. Ground control made multiple attempts to contact the jet via radio, but received no response. Despite an extensive overnight search involving both air and water rescue teams, no trace of the plane or its pilot was ever found. There was no debris, no oil slick, nothing to indicate what had happened. Authorities later released a statement claiming that the Scorpion jet had exploded at high altitude, but this explanation ignored the fact that such an event would have left significant debris on the surface of Lake Superior. Moreover, all records referencing Moncla's mission were reportedly removed from official documents. According to some accounts, both the jet and the unidentified target vanished simultaneously, leading UFO enthusiasts to speculate that Moncla's aircraft may have collided with the UFO. As for First Lieutenant Felix Moncla, it seems that the truth about his disappearance may never be known. Moving on to the next mystery. In 1985, 78-year-old Mildred Metheny lived in Lake Worth, Florida. A retired nurse, she suffered from dementia and was cared for by her younger sister, Gladys Nolan, with whom she shared a home on Crestwood Boulevard in Lake Worth Beach. On the evening of April 27th, a passerby discovered Mildred severely injured. She had been brutally struck in the head and face, leaving her bloodied and nude. Her dentures were found in the dirt nearby, and her scattered clothing was abandoned around the scene. Mildred was rushed to the hospital, but despite efforts to save her, she tragically succumbed to her injuries a few days later. Investigators began piecing together a timeline of events and learned that Mildred was last seen at her residence before wandering off, something she had done on previous occasions due to her dementia. She was reported missing at 4:30 p.m. Then, at 10 o'clock at night, a bystander discovered her unconscious on Jupiter's ancient Indian town road, more than 30 miles from her home. Witnesses stated that they saw Mildred pull into a brown Oldsmobile sedan at the Lucerne Avenue and Dixie Highway crossroads. Witnesses informed detectives that the driver identified himself as Mildred's neighbor and promised to assist her in returning home. They were unaware of the precise events that transpired between that time and her discovery. Unfortunately, the case remained unsolved for many years in the absence of credible leads or suspects. That was prior until recently. Using genetic genealogy and the DNA they had taken from Mildred's remains in 1985, investigators were able to identify the suspect. They recognized him as Richard Curtis Lang, age 61, in March 2021. His home is at Boynton Beach, Florida, which is not far from Mildred's residence. After that, he was sent without bond to the Palm Beach County Jail. He engaged a defense lawyer and denied any role in the crime. This is what the lawyer said in a statement. Mr. Lang strongly disputes the accusations made by the Palm Beach County State's Attorney's Office today, and we intend to vigorously contest the forensic evidence that Mr. Lang is said to have provided. There is nothing in Mr. Lang's record that suggests he has a tendency towards such heinous behavior. Additionally, when we get ready for trial, we will argue that, considering his age and health, he ought to be released to home detention. Richard was 25 years old at the time of the incident, so it's unclear how their paths may have met. Richard has a criminal record. Following his apprehension in Palm Beach County on a weapons possession charge in 2012, his DNA was sent to Cody's. Investigators are certain he is the one responsible, even though he denies any participation. Richard Lang, a local resident and convicted offender, was linked to Mildred Methany's case when DNA evidence was discovered in her body, evidence that was impossible to explain away. After Lang's arrest, Mildred's son expressed his gratitude, saying, "It has been a while. I am grateful to the cold case team for locating that evil SOB." He also reflected on his mother's life, noting that she had worked with mental health patients at a hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas. He described her as a loving woman who enjoyed spending time with her family, cooking, and sewing. On February 1, 2023, 62-year-old Richard Lang was found guilty of murdering and assaulting Mildred Metheny. During the trial, Lang, who was confined to a wheelchair, occasionally appeared disinterested, even dozing off at times. He remained silent as the verdict was read and was escorted out of the courtroom by bailiffs. The two-day trial brought an end to a 38-year-old cold case. Lang is scheduled to be sentenced by Circuit Judge Delia Weiss on April 4, 2023. Moving on to the next mystery. On the morning of September 23, 1986, two men entered a young woman's home on Phillip Island, Australia, only to be met with a horrifying scene. The 23-year-old woman, Beth Barnard, was discovered lying on her bed with her throat slit and a blanket covering her body. The men, who were family members of Beth's lover, immediately reported the shocking discovery to authorities and left the premises. When investigators arrived, they were unprepared for the gruesome scene awaiting them inside Beth's parents' home. The crime scene was disturbing, with fragments of a knife and cigarette butts scattered nearby, though these items were later determined to be unrelated to Beth's injuries. Blood-stained paper towels were found by the bathroom sink. Beth's body had suffered multiple stab wounds and brutal slashes. Her nightgown was pushed up to her neck, and her clothing bore unusual double tiers. Defensive wounds on her arms and wrists suggested she fought back, but the most chilling detail was a large letter carved into her chest. This specific detail earned Beth's murder the nickname, the Scarlet Letter Murder, as the carved A was believed to reference Nathaniel Hawthorne's 1850 novel of the same name. In the novel, the protagonist is forced to wear a scarlet A as a symbol of her adulterous affair, which resulted in the birth of a child. To fully understand the significance of this supposed illusion, we must first delve into Beth's personal life. At the age of 21, Beth met Fergus Cameron, a 34-year-old farmer and founding shareholder of the prestigious Phillip Island Grand Prix. Fergus had moved to the island with his wife, Vivian, whom he had met in the 1970s. Unlike Vivian, who reportedly struggled to fit into the tight-knit community, Beth found it easy to adapt. She was well-liked and quickly became part of the small, close-knit Phillip Island community, which was often wary of newcomers. Beth had several close friends on the island and was never seen as an outsider. Fergus and Beth first crossed paths when they were both volunteering at Phillip Island's famous penguin parade. For months later, Fergus invited Beth to work as a farmhand for his family. She accepted the offer and, surprisingly, transitioned into her new role with the Camerons effortlessly. Beth was so close to the Cameron family that Fergus's brother Donald's children even referred to her as a sister. However, by May 1985, Beth and Fergus had begun an affair. Vivian, Fergus's wife, was not oblivious to the signs. Having witnessed her own father leave her mother for a younger woman, she became increasingly aware of Fergus's late-night phone calls and frequent absences. Fearing history might repeat itself, Vivian tried to strengthen their relationship for the sake of their two young sons, but she could sense Fergus drifting away. By the fall of 1986, Beth's affair with one of the wealthiest and most influential men on Phillip Island had become an open secret. So, when Beth's body was found with the letter A carved into her chest, both the local community and the authorities had strong suspicions about who might have committed the brutal crime. According to Fergus, Vivian confronted him about the affair on the evening of September 22nd, the night before Beth's murder. Fergus, then 36 years old, admitted that the confrontation escalated into an argument. In a fit of rage, Vivian shattered a wine glass against Fergus's head and back, cutting his ear in the process. Despite her anger, she quickly took him to the hospital for medical treatment. Hospital staff noted that Fergus and Vivian seemed more like a united couple than distant or cold. However, when questioned about the events leading to Fergus's injury, the pair appeared somewhat reserved. To explain the situation, they told staff that Fergus had fallen through a glass door, a story that raised suspicions of a possible marital dispute. After receiving treatment, Fergus went to his sister Marnie's house, where he spent the night. According to him, this was the last time Vivian saw him, at around 1 a.m. Fergus later told investigators that he had been granted custody of the children in case Vivian decided to leave him and return to Melbourne, effectively ending their marriage. What Vivian did after leaving Fergus that night remains unclear. However, at approximately 3 a.m., she called her friend Robin, asking her to look after the children because she needed to go to the hospital. While Vivian told Robin this was why she left, records confirm that she and Fergus had already visited the hospital earlier in the evening. By morning, when the couple should have been home, Vivian was still missing, and their Toyota Land Cruiser was gone. Robin, concerned about the situation, was the first to alert Fergus's brother Donald. She pointed out that neither Fergus nor Vivian had arrived to pick up their children, and she could no longer wait because she had to leave for work. But after learning this, Fergus dispatched Donald and his family, along with Marnie's husband, Ian, to see how Beth was doing instead of asking them to look for Vivian. Donald stated that Beth was not dead, but rather that she was not well, when they reported the body to the police. To paraphrase the detectives working the case, they later stated that they thought Donald had been quite odd. "It's the most composed, cool-headed group of people I've ever seen," Senior Constable Alan McFadden stated. "You would believe these guys found bodies on a daily basis." Even so, no one was trying to find Vivian. A neighbor last saw her Land Cruiser at roughly 12:30 a.m., outside Beth's house. It was spotted again around 5 a.m., close to the San Remo Bridge. Later that day, at 4 p.m., authorities found it here, unlocked, with the windows down and the keys in the ignition. Contrary to expectations, the detectives found virtually little blood within. They also found a hunting knife, a bloody washcloth, and Vivian's handbag. It was determined at an inquest held 2 years later that Vivian most likely killed Beth in a self-destructive attack before taking her own life. Some investigators, however, believe that this notion was not supported by the important data they possessed. It's interesting to note that bloodstains on a towel in Beth's restroom matched Vivian, rather than the 23-year-old. Additionally, Vivian's blood was found in her own home. Robin, who visited the house in the middle of the night to look after the kids, said that when she arrived, there was no sign of Fergus, Vivian, or the broken wine glass. Only her handbag, which was later discovered in the Land Cruiser. left behind. Marnie also mentioned that there were indications of conflict in the house when she had arrived to watch the kids while Vivian drove Fergus to the hospital. Blood was on tissues, the kitchen bench, the bed in the spare room, and the clothes in the washing hamper. Later on, it was discovered to match Vivian's. Moreover, Vivian's DNA was absent from Beth's body in the vicinity even though it was discovered on the kitchen knife at the scene. Her DNA was only found in several cigarette butts and the bloody tower, according to some accounts. When a teacher named Petritus turned into an author and wrote a book about the case, she discovered that the locals were either afraid of the police or unwilling to question them. When the book was published, one of the island's largest bookstores declined to carry it. Some found the residents' actions odd and even suspicious, while others saw it as the reaction of a small, close-knit community unwilling to focus on such a brutal and violent crime. After consulting with Vivian's acquaintances and other residents of the island, Vicky concluded that the young lady's suicide was uncharacteristic. It was said by many who knew her that Vivian would never abandon her kids. Notably, Vivian's friend Glenda Frost stated that the mother of two called her at 10 a.m. on September 23, 1986, a few hours after the murder. According to Glenda, the two talked about commonplace subjects like sewing patterns. If this is accurate, it indicates that Vivian did not commit suicide right away after the crime. Nonetheless, Glenda's testimony has been disregarded by the investigators, who maintain that she has been a model for their dates. Since there is absolutely no proof that Vivian is dead at all, criminal experts, including former law enforcement officers, have stated that they do not think she staged her death. As for Vivian, criminologist Catherine Whiteley, who focuses on women who kill, has openly expressed her disbelief, pointing out that it was a very, quote, male attack on Beth. Although women who commit murder tend to prefer more covert techniques like poisoning, suffocation, or drowning, this does not exclude them from being capable of this kind of intense brutality. Dr. Forensic Pathologist Sarah Yule disputes Catherine's assertion that the incident was the result of someone seeking retribution or acting in a fit of rage. The ferocity of it, she continues, shows the emotionality behind it, which further implies that the victim knows them. In his remarks, former investigator Rory O'Connor described the attack as brutal and frantic. There aren't many well-known people outside the Cameron family who might be connected to the case. Beth allegedly had a fan who was a Land Cruiser driver. It was reported that this individual would sit outside her home at night and would even start mowing her lawn while she was out at work. She apparently got into an argument with this person and told them to change their behavior. Beth said to friends that a few days later, he got upset with me. Furthermore, a college student who attended the Penguin March harbored affections for the 23-year-old but failed to reciprocate them. It's unclear, though, if these two individuals have now been looked into and ruled out. In a statement, another neighbor of Beth's claimed that the night of the crime, at 7:50 p.m., a car pulled into her driveway, sat there, and then turned off its lights. Fergus did not finish work until 8 o'clock at night, so it's unclear what happened to this lead, but it looks like he's in the clear. There aren't many more explanations regarding Beth's situation. The majority of people either think that Fergus was the one who killed both Beth and his wife, or they think that the police had the right explanation. Beth was reportedly feeling uneasy about her relationship with Fergus and was planning to give him an ultimatum. Some speculate that Fergus, angered by this ultimatum, killed Beth in retaliation. According to this theory, a confrontation turned violent when Beth fought back, injuring him, which led to a bloody struggle. After allegedly cleaning himself up and staging the crime scene, Fergus is said to have explained his injuries to Vivian by claiming he had broken up with Beth and that she had attacked him in revenge. Together, the couple went to the hospital, where they created a cover story for Fergus's wounds. During this time, Fergus and his family allegedly crafted a narrative they planned to share with the authorities. It is also speculated that when Vivian returned home the next morning, she may have contacted her friend Glenda. At that point, Fergus might have joined her and killed her as well. Critics argue that the police may have failed to promptly investigate the Cameron's farm after discovering Beth's murder and the reappearance of the Land Cruiser. This delay could have allowed time for Vivian's body to be disposed of. However, for now, these claims remain purely speculative. The Victorian police have stated that the case remains open and under investigation. Moving on to the next mystery. The Damastor's goat is often regarded as one of the world's most unattractive animals. Surprisingly, its peculiar appearance is not the result of a mutation, but rather the outcome of intentional breeding. This unique goat is considered a distinct and rare breed, commonly known as the Damastor's goat, though it is also referred to by names such as Aleppo, Chami, and Chami. This goat is valued for both milk and meat production, as well as its extraordinary height and unusual appearance. It is characterized by a small face and a stature that is significantly taller than most other goat breeds. Breeders specifically seek out animals with the most bizarre features to ensure these traits are passed down genetically. Often, the Damastor's goat is crossbred with other goat breeds to create offspring with a combination of unique characteristics. Because of its impressive height, the creature has often reminded people of the Goat Man, a legendary humanoid cryptid commonly linked to Louisiana, Maryland, and Texas. Described as a 7-foot-tall hybrid of man and goat, the Goat Man is infamous in urban legends for hunting young couples in parked cars or prowling through neighborhoods, stealing family pets. While scared teenagers whisper stories of the Goat Man, not everyone agrees on what form the creature takes. Some claim the Goat Man was once a man who kept goats but went insane after teenagers stole his flock, driving him to seek revenge on any young person he encounters. However, perhaps the most unsettling version of the tale originates at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, a sprawling USDA facility featuring a grand brick building with white columns. In this version, a deranged scientist experiments on a goat, but something goes horribly wrong, transforming him into a half-man, half-goat beast. A similar creature, the Waterford Sheepman, is said to have terrorized the small rural town of Waterford, Pennsylvania, in the early 1970s. The creature was said to lurk in farm fields, stalking unsuspecting animals with an apparent hunger for them. Hundreds of people have reportedly witnessed this mysterious being, often referred to as the Goat Man. Sightings have been documented across the country, including Texas, Wisconsin, and Kentucky, though many believe its home base remains in Maryland, where it was first seen. In Prince George's County, there is an old, rusty bridge known as Governor's Bridge, where the Goat Man is rumored to have built its lair beneath. Some speculate that the area's unexplained disappearances could be linked to the Goat Man. Considering the chilling nature of this creature, do you think it is possible that a mad scientist could have created something similar, only for it to escape? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Moving on to the next mystery. Astronomy is the study of celestial objects like stars, planets, comets, and galaxies, as well as other phenomena that exist beyond Earth's atmosphere. This fascination with the cosmos is far from new. Humans have been observing the stars for thousands of years, wondering about the vast unknown. One of the most iconic sites linked to early astronomy is Stonehenge, a monument that continues to puzzle researchers and historians alike. Its massive stones, so enormous that even modern construction techniques would face challenges replicating them, add to the intrigue and mystery surrounding its purpose and creation. The source of Stonehenge's massive stones appears to be located over 100 miles away, raising questions among researchers about how such heavy blocks were transported to the site. Despite these mysteries, it is widely believed that one purpose of the monument was to mark the first day of summer. Ancient astronomers likely used the stones to determine the position of the rising sun. Remarkably, the people of that era constructed the site with incredible precision. Even today, the structure's complex design can track time with an astonishing degree of accuracy, leaving modern observers in awe. Similarly, the Great Pyramids of Giza are hailed as one of the greatest wonders of the world, shrouded in an aura of mystery and intrigue. How were these monumental structures built? What was their true purpose? Archaeologists and Egyptologists have dedicated their lives to studying these megalithic marvels, yet the secrets of their construction remain elusive. Researchers have demonstrated that the ancient Egyptians possessed remarkable knowledge of astronomy. Many of their structures, including the pyramids, were designed with an astronomical orientation. These buildings were carefully aligned with stars, constellations, and even the zodiac visible in the night sky. Astonishingly, the Egyptians could construct buildings where sunlight would illuminate a specific room during one exact time of the year. Astronomical illustrations can even be found in Ramesses' chamber, emphasizing how deeply the Egyptians studied the cosmos for centuries. They also developed a calendar capable of predicting the annual flooding of the Nile, showcasing their advanced understanding of celestial patterns. With achievements like these, it is no wonder that some believe the ancient Egyptians were far more advanced than we often give them credit for. What are your thoughts on the incredible knowledge and accomplishments of these ancient civilizations? Moving on to the next mystery. Eagle's Nest is a vast cave system accessible to the public, with a road constructed to make visiting more convenient. To further assist entry, a wooden deck and staircase have been added. However, the sinkhole is now located 12 miles from the current access point, even though it lies less than a mile from the nearest paved road. Despite this distance, efforts have been made to improve the road and add a dock and ramp system, making the site more accessible for visitors. This remarkable location is marked by a sign at the Eagle's Nest sinkhole, situated near a well-known spot famous for its mermaid shows. The sinkhole plunges to depths of 300 feet in its deepest areas and stretches for a mile. Sylvester Muller, vice chairman of the National Cave Diving Section, described it as being like a Venus flytrap. Once inside, the Eagle's Nest offers so much to see that it is easy to become distracted, and the descent can quickly reach dangerous depths. For those daring enough to explore these underwater caverns, the Eagle's Nest is regarded as one of the most extreme diving spots in the world. Its reputation comes from its incredible depth and intricate, maze-like structure. Often referred to as the Mount Everest of cave dives, it shares a sobering similarity with Everest. Many have lost their lives attempting to experience its beauty. Tragically, even experienced divers have fallen victim to this treacherous cave system. A few years ago, 3 friends decided to take on the challenge of diving into Eagle's Nest. 2 of them were seasoned divers who had explored the cave before, while the third friend was less experienced and unfamiliar with the site. Upon arriving, the men geared up with their scuba equipment and began their dive. Despite being fully aware of the dangers, they felt confident about their plan. While the 2 experienced divers ventured deeper into the dark, twisting caves, their less experienced friends stayed near the surface for safety. The friends had agreed to regroup at 3 p.m., but when the inexperienced diver reached the meeting point and his friends did not show up, he began to worry. After waiting for 13 minutes, he decided to dive back in and search for them, but there was no trace of his companions. Another half-hour passed, and they were still nowhere to be found. By 6 p.m., realizing the situation was dire, he contacted the authorities for help. Rescue divers arrived promptly and began searching the cave for the missing men. However, despite their efforts, the divers could not be located. It was not until the following day that a new rescue team attempted to find them. The bodies of the 2 men were eventually discovered at a depth of 260 feet. What made the discovery even more unsettling was that the 2 were found not far from each other, adding an eerie element to the tragedy. The Eagle's Nest cave system, situated in a challenging and intricate area, has become the center of debate regarding its accessibility to the public. Some advocate for the site to be closed off, citing the need to protect both the fragile environment and the safety of visitors. The cave's delicate ecosystem, combined with the significant risks it poses, has raised concerns about the effects of heightened human activity on this natural wonder. Moving on to the next mystery. Throughout history, alchemists have often been depicted as eccentric mystics, dismissed by the mainstream scholars and scientists of their time. However, many of their discoveries laid the foundation for modern science, particularly in the field of chemistry. One notable example is the concept of ether. In ancient times, ether was believed to be a substance that filled the empty space between objects in the universe, serving as a medium for light and other forces. Although the scientific community eventually moved past the idea of ether, alchemists' early exploration of this concept helped pave the way for future advancements in understanding matter and energy. Similarly, Nikola Tesla, one of the most brilliant inventors in history, faced ridicule akin to that experienced by alchemists. Tesla was often referred to as a mystic during his lifetime, owing to his belief in unusual theories and, at times, seemingly magical ideas. This perception of him as an outsider began during his university years, where he was ridiculed by his professors, and it continued into his career. Tesla frequently discussed the concept of ether, describing it as a mythical, invisible energy that constitutes the universe, a notion rooted in ancient folklore and legends. Like the alchemists, his unconventional ideas were mocked but hinted at concepts that would later influence scientific thought. Tesla often spoke at length about his discoveries involving the ether, making bold predictions that, in the future, this mysterious energy could be harnessed to enable people to see and communicate with each other over vast distances instantly using small telephonic devices. As he grew older, Tesla's unwavering belief in the ether and his unconventional theories led to increasing ridicule from both the scientific community and the general public. Many speculated that he had lost touch with reality. Yet, in hindsight, some of his ideas about the ether were remarkably forward-thinking. Tesla suggested that all matter was fundamentally composed of energy, waves, and frequencies, with the ether playing a critical role in the structure of the universe. While modern science has largely abandoned the term ether, it has been replaced by the concept of the electromagnetic spectrum, which aligns with many of Tesla's insights into energy and waves. What was once dismissed as mysticism now resonates in the scientific principles that underpin our understanding of physics and energy today, a testament to Tesla's visionary genius. Moving on to the next mystery. The greatest mystery surrounding the Sentinelese tribe is not rooted in their health, intelligence, isolation, or genetics, but in the enigmatic beliefs and culture they have kept hidden from the outside world. If their language were ever deciphered and sustained contact established, it could unveil a belief system that is entirely unique and deeply reflective of their way of life. Religious beliefs have developed independently across the globe, and understanding the culture of the Sentinelese could provide a window into ancient traditions, potentially offering insights into the spiritual truths of humanity's distant past. More than 6,000 years ago, their beliefs might even represent one of the oldest and most unaltered interpretations of religion since the dawn of humanity. While some theorize that their religious focus could resemble that of neighboring Andamanese tribes, the lack of similarities between the Sentinelese and other nearby islands has led many to believe that their culture and religion predate all others, possibly making them among the most ancient in existence. This could provide remarkable insight into the mindset of early humans and the development of religious belief over time. Moving on to the next mystery. Leonardo da Vinci, renowned as one of the greatest minds of the Renaissance, designed numerous flying machines, with the ornithopter being his most iconic creation. This invention sought to replicate the flapping motion of bird wings to achieve lift and flight. Da Vinci's ornithopter was heavily influenced by his fascination with birds and their flight mechanics. He closely studied how birds use their wings to generate lift and experimented with designs that could imitate this natural motion. The machine featured a pair of wings constructed from wood and fabric, connected to a central axis powered by a system of gears and cranks. It was intended to be operated by a single pilot, who would lie flat in a harness beneath the wings. The pilot would use both their arms and legs to drive the flapping motion, causing the wings to lift and create the thrust needed for flight. The ornithopter was also designed with a basic steering mechanism, allowing the pilot to control the direction of flight. Although Leonardo da Vinci's ornithopter was never constructed during his lifetime, it remains a revolutionary concept that laid the foundation for modern aviation. His detailed observations of bird flight and his understanding of aerodynamics were far ahead of his time. Over the centuries, many of his ideas have been adapted and refined, leading to the development of the airplanes and helicopters we know today. Replicas of Da Vinci's ornithopter are now displayed in museums around the world, and his legacy as a visionary pioneer of flight continues to inspire engineers, inventors, and dreamers alike. Interestingly, some of Leonardo da Vinci's other inventions have drawn comparisons to modern creations. For instance, his design for a helicopter bears a striking resemblance to NASA's Mars helicopter. The visual similarity between the two has led some to speculate that da Vinci's sketches may have indirectly influenced the development of modern flight technology. Remarkably, da Vinci conceptualized his helicopter more than 400 years before the actual invention of the helicopter, highlighting how far ahead of his time he truly was. NASA's Mars helicopter, Ingenuity, is a small drone designed to fly on Mars. Developed by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, it was launched aboard the Mars 2020 mission in July of that year, further demonstrating how Da Vinci's visionary concepts continue to echo in contemporary engineering achievements. The Mars helicopter, known as Ingenuity, is a technology demonstration mission designed to test the feasibility of using helicopters for future exploration on Mars. Moving on to the next mystery. In recent years, WikiLeaks has gained notoriety for exposing classified documents and sensitive data that unveil government secrets and corporate corruption. Among its more intriguing releases were 24 photographs of Antarctica, leaked following the infamous Podesta email hack. At first glance, the images seem to depict ordinary Antarctic landscapes, vast stretches of ice, snow-covered mountains, and barren terrain. However, some believe there may be more to these photographs than meets the eye. Theorists have speculated that the images could carry hidden significance, with some suggesting that WikiLeaks intentionally released them to draw attention to secretive activities taking place in one of the world's most remote and enigmatic regions. WikiLeaks has offered little explanation for why these specific photos of Antarctica were chosen, fueling a range of theories. Some believe the images may point to classified military operations, ancient ruins buried under the ice, or even extraterrestrial bases concealed beneath the frozen surface. While the pictures might appear mundane to the average observer, others argue they could contain subtle clues to locations of extraordinary importance. As an organization known for challenging established narratives and exposing hidden truths, WikiLeaks' release of these photos has sparked ongoing curiosity and debate. Over the years, WikiLeaks has released information exposing everything from government corruption to military misconduct. So why publish photographs of what seems to be Antarctica's barren, icy wilderness? At first glance, these images may appear unremarkable, just snapshots of one of the most desolate places on Earth. However, given WikiLeaks' history of releasing highly significant material, many are skeptical that these photographs were shared without purpose. Some theorize that the release was a subtle prompt, encouraging researchers and investigators to take a deeper look at the mysteries of Antarctica. The continent has always been cloaked in intrigue, with only a limited number of people granted access to its most remote regions. Governments, including the United States and Russia, have maintained research bases in Antarctica for decades, often shrouded in secrecy. The Antarctic Treaty System, which prohibits military activity and preserves the area for scientific exploration, only adds to the sense of mystery surrounding the region. A plausible reason for releasing these images could be to highlight undisclosed military operations or scientific endeavors taking place in this isolated environment. With Antarctica's strategic significance being both remote and challenging to monitor, it is conceivable that activities beneath the ice could range from weapons testing to cutting-edge technological research. WikiLeaks may have intended to spark curiosity about these activities by releasing what appear to be ordinary photographs, but may, in reality, depict areas with restricted access. Since the release, numerous theories have emerged about the potential significance of the images. Some researchers have examined specific geographical features visible in the photographs, suggesting that these locations might conceal ancient ruins or underground bases. While the theories range from plausible to highly speculative, they all share a common belief. There is more to Antarctica than meets the eye. One of the most enduring theories is that Antarctica could be the site of a lost civilization. Some speculate that the continent, now buried beneath thick ice, was once home to an advanced human or pre-human civilization that thrived thousands or even millions of years ago. Another prominent theory is that the photographs may reveal the locations of secret military bases. Antarctica's extreme remoteness and the difficulty in monitoring activity there make it an ideal location for covert government operations. It is widely believed that both the United States and Russia have maintained classified military installations on the continent, often disguised as research stations. Some even theorize that these operations involve advanced technology, such as experimental aircraft, cutting-edge weapons systems, or even anti-gravity propulsion. If such activities are indeed occurring in Antarctica, the photographs released by WikiLeaks could provide subtle hints about the locations of these hidden bases. The fact that some of the images show airstrips and infrastructure that do not appear to belong to public research stations further supports this theory. One of the most sensational claims suggests that the photographs might reveal extraterrestrial bases concealed deep beneath Antarctica's ice. UFO researchers have long speculated that the continent could house alien spacecraft or secret extraterrestrial colonies, with its isolation offering an ideal location for undetected operations. Supporters of this theory often reference reports of unexplained phenomena in Antarctica, including strange lights, unidentified flying objects, and unusual data collected by scientific instruments. Could it be that WikiLeaks released these images to hint at extraterrestrial activity on the continent? While there is no concrete evidence to substantiate this claim, the idea has gained traction within UFO communities. Given the secrecy surrounding Antarctica and the limited access to many of its regions, the release of these photographs could be interpreted as a deliberate effort by WikiLeaks to shine a light on hidden activities. The organization may have intended to encourage researchers, journalists, and theorists to dig deeper, drawing their own conclusions about the significance of the locations depicted in the images. It is also possible that WikiLeaks released the images as a symbolic gesture, a reminder to the world that there are still regions on Earth, like Antarctica, that remain largely unexplored and could harbor hidden secrets. The continent's harsh climate and restricted access make it an ideal setting for mysteries yet to be uncovered. Since WikiLeaks' release of the 24 photos of Antarctica, which raised questions about what might truly lie beneath the frozen surface, interest has grown in the accounts of whistleblowers who claim that hidden bases are scattered across the continent. According to numerous insiders and whistleblowers, these bases may be home to covert military operations, classified scientific research, and, in some extraordinary accounts, extraterrestrial activity. While the idea of hidden bases in Antarctica is not new, the continent's secrecy and vast, uncharted terrain make it a prime candidate for such theories. Over the years, multiple whistleblowers, some anonymous, others stepping forward publicly, have shared detailed accounts of secret bases concealed beneath the Antarctic ice. These stories vary but often include recurring themes of highly restricted access, advanced technology, and unexplained phenomena. One of the most prominent figures to speak out is Corey Goode, a former insider who claims to have been involved in secret space programs. Goode, along with other whistleblowers, has alleged that numerous underground bases exist across Antarctica, built by both human governments and extraterrestrial entities. These claims, while controversial, have fueled ongoing speculation that Antarctica may be far more than the desolate scientific outpost it is often portrayed as. Goode's claims, though controversial, propose that Antarctica is home to ancient alien ruins and advanced human research facilities buried beneath the ice. According to Goode, these bases are accessible only to an elite few and are being used to reverse engineer alien technology and conduct experiments far beyond what is publicly known. While his assertions have been met with skepticism by mainstream scientists, Goode's testimony aligns with accounts from others who claim to have encountered strange structures and unexplained activities while working in Antarctica. Beyond Goode, several military personnel stationed in Antarctica have shared unsettling stories about restricted zones and classified projects. Many have stated that, while officially tasked with maintaining scientific research stations, they were aware of no-go zones, regions off-limits to anyone not involved in classified operations. These restricted areas are reportedly surrounded by tight security, including airspace restrictions and advanced surveillance systems designed to prevent unauthorized access. One of the most persistent theories about hidden bases in Antarctica is linked to alleged German activities during and after World War II. According to some historians and theorists, Germany established a secret base in Antarctica known as New Swabia following a German expedition to the continent between 1938 and 1939. The theory suggests that the Germans were drawn to Antarctica not only for its isolation, but also due to beliefs that the region might provide access to ancient technologies or even support ideas related to hollow Earth theories. While there is no concrete evidence of a fully operational German base in Antarctica, the theory gained renewed attention in 1946, when the United States launched Operation High Jump, a large-scale military operation led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Officially, Operation High Jump was described as a training exercise and a scientific exploration of Antarctica. However, the sheer scale of the mission, comprising over 4,700 personnel, 13 ships, and aircraft, has led many to speculate that its true purpose was far more significant. Some believe the operation aimed to locate hidden German outposts or address other mysterious threats in the region. According to certain reports, Admiral Byrd himself allegedly spoke of unexplained phenomena during Operation High Jump, including sightings of flying discs or UFOs that were said to have harassed the military forces. While these claims are often dismissed, they have been supported by accounts from military whistleblowers, suggesting there may have been much more to the mission than officially acknowledged. One of the most intriguing elements of these testimonies is the theory of extraterrestrial involvement in Antarctic bases. According to some accounts, Antarctica may house ancient alien structures buried beneath the ice for thousands of years. Whistleblowers claim that human governments, particularly those of the United States and Russia, have been secretly working to uncover and study these structures, aiming to reverse engineer alien technology. In this context, the 24 photos released by WikiLeaks might represent subtle clues pointing to locations of interest where such activities are taking place. Although the images appear to depict ordinary landscapes of mountains and ice, researchers have analyzed specific geological features within them, suggesting they could hint at underground facilities. For instance, some photographs show unusual formations resembling entrances or tunnels, which whistleblowers claim could lead to expansive subterranean complexes. The idea that extraterrestrials might have a base in Antarctica is not entirely without precedent. For decades, there have been reports of UFO sightings in the region, often described as mysterious lights or rapidly moving disks above the ice. Some researchers theorize that Antarctica's remote location and harsh environment make it an ideal place for extraterrestrial beings to operate undetected by the wider population. While whistleblower accounts of hidden alien bases and secret military projects have captured the public's imagination, the fact remains that Antarctica is home to several publicly known research stations. The Antarctic Treaty System, established in 1959, mandates that the continent be used solely for scientific research and peaceful purposes. However, even under the treaty, much of what occurs in Antarctica remains highly restricted and classified. Governments operate multiple research stations, officially focused on studying climate change, astronomy, and biology. Yet, the secrecy surrounding certain projects has fueled speculation that some of these facilities may serve dual purposes, conducting legitimate scientific research alongside covert operations. Whistleblower claims suggest that these bases could be used to conceal activities ranging from advanced weapons testing to classified aerospace research. The release of the 24 photographs of Antarctica by WikiLeaks has undoubtedly reignited interest in the mysteries of the southernmost continent, leaving many to wonder what secrets might still be hidden beneath the ice. The true significance of these photographs, whether they hint at hidden military bases, ancient civilizations, or advanced activities, continues to be a subject of intense speculation. Whistleblower accounts only add to the intrigue, suggesting that far more may be occurring in Antarctica than is publicly acknowledged. As new leaks, testimonies, and investigations come to light, the mysteries surrounding Antarctica are likely to deepen and unravel further, keeping the world's curiosity alive. Moving on to the next mystery. The number of missing persons reported each year varies depending on the location and the criteria used to define a missing person. In the United States, the National Crime Information Center reported approximately 609,000 missing persons in 2020, the most recent year for which data is available. This number includes both juveniles and adults and encompasses cases where the individual was quickly found or returned home. The vast majority of these reported cases are resolved within a short time frame. According to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, an estimated 600,000 to 900,000 people go missing annually in the United States. Most of these individuals are located within a few days or weeks, and a significant number of unresolved cases are eventually resolved over time. These figures only account for individuals who are officially reported as missing, and some researchers believe the actual numbers could be significantly higher due to unreported cases. Moving on to the next mystery. A groundbreaking discovery in Morocco over the past 2 years has significantly altered our understanding of human history, challenging the previously accepted timeline of human civilization. Until recently, experts estimated that modern humans had existed for no more than 100,000 years, with some placing the figure closer to 50,000 years. However, a discovery made in June 2017 may completely upend this belief and reshape the prehistoric timeline. A team of scientists announced the discovery of unusual fossils in a cave at Jebel Irhoud, a hill in western Morocco. These fossils were identified as the remains of early, anatomically modern humans. Carbon dating of the bones revealed that they are likely far older than previously believed. Moving on to the next mystery. The Sentinelese tribe has demonstrated an extraordinary ability to adapt and innovate, particularly evident following the 1981 incident when a cargo ship ran aground near their island. Researchers noted the tribe's remarkable understanding of materials and their ability to manipulate them, showcasing their resourcefulness and quick learning. While earlier reports, dating back to 1860, described the use of iron-tipped arrows by the Sentinelese during initial contact attempts, more recent observations suggested a regression to stone-tipped arrows or other inferior materials. This change was likely due to the tribe exhausting their limited iron supplies during earlier conflicts or encounters. However, the cargo ship's crash brought a new opportunity, providing an abundance of materials for the tribe to utilize. Subsequent surveys and studies revealed that the Sentinelese had begun crafting metal tools from the ship's debris. These tools displayed signs of intricate craftsmanship and methods that resembled more advanced smelting techniques. This event has been described as the artificial onset of the tribe's Iron Age, marking their transition from rudimentary materials to the repurposed resources from the cargo ship. Interestingly, over the years, increasingly complex creations and crafts have been observed, utilizing various materials salvaged from the shipwreck. These materials appear to have sparked a wave of technological innovation, providing the Sentinelese with the tools and resources needed to advance their craftsmanship and potentially evolve into a more modernized tribe. The tribe's remarkable ability to learn, experiment, and adapt at such an impressive pace has not gone unnoticed. Their ingenuity and resourcefulness are seen by many as indicators of a healthy lifestyle, sufficient nutrition, and a level of intelligence that reflects their capability to thrive in isolation. Moving on to the next mystery. Linda Slayton, a 31-year-old mother, lived in Lakeland, Florida, with her two sons, 12-year-old Tim and 15-year-old Jeff. On the morning of September 4, 1981, Linda's sister, Judy Butler, arrived at their home to have coffee with her. However, Judy was met with a horrifying scene. She found Linda's lifeless body lying on the bed, with a wire hanger wrapped tightly around her neck. Judy immediately called 911. Linda had been brutally strangled and beaten. When investigators arrived at the scene, they had the difficult task of breaking the tragic news to her two sons. Jeff, who had been sleeping in the living room, was told by investigators to get dressed and step outside. As he stepped out, Jeff was met with a chaotic scene. Television crews, what seemed like every Florida police officer, and his Aunt Judy, who was sobbing uncontrollably. It was Judy who delivered the devastating news about Linda's death. An officer woke up Tim, Linda's 12-year-old son, in the second bedroom. Still in his pajamas, Tim walked past his mother's closed bedroom door. Just then, an officer emerged from the room, causing the door to swing open. To his horror, Tim saw the crime scene in its entirety. Investigators concluded that the perpetrator had entered Linda's bedroom by cutting through the screen and climbing in through the window. A palm print was discovered on the windowsill, and DNA belonging to an unidentified man was collected from Linda's body. Detectives then began investigating Linda's personal life, hoping to determine whether someone she knew might have been responsible for the crime. Among the individuals they examined was Linda's ex-husband, Frank Slayton. Linda had filed for divorce from Frank in 1974 when she was just 24 years old. Being a violent drunk, he would become aggressive and strike Linda. He was an asshole, but investigators were unable to connect him to the crime. Jeff Slayton was another person that investigators examined. They conducted several interviews with him, but were unable to establish his guilt either. Investigators investigated Joe Mills as well. Tim's high school football coach was Mills, a 20-year-old. Following her divorce, Linda found it difficult to find employment, sewn her own clothes to save money, and was unable to purchase a car. Then, each day, Mills drove Tim to and from practice. Mills was also unconnected to the crime scene by the investigators. As a fingerprint expert, Sergeant Edgar Pickett was employed by the Lakeland Police Department. It was he who searched the whole crime scene and discovered the palm print on the windowsill. The DNA and palm print extracted from Linda's body were preserved for potential use in the future. Tim and Jeff moved in with Clarence and Margaret Harris, their grandparents. They hardly ever left the house because they were so afraid. Except for Grandpa Harris, they were all sleeping in the same room. He would keep watch over them all night long while brandishing a rifle. The grandparents hoped that their distressed grandsons would feel better quickly and get back into regular habits. Grandsons. After their mother's funeral, the boys returned to school a few weeks later. They chose to concentrate on football. A month after Linda was killed, this picture of Tim's football squad was taken. The picture was hung in Tim's bedroom. He claimed it brought to mind what his mother had taught him, to never give up and to keep going forward. Jeff and Tim have revealed in the past few years that they are still grieving and feeling guilty for not hearing anything that night and for not saving their mother. Investigators have created a complete DNA profile of the individual who killed Linda in March 1999. A match was all that was required. In 2001, Detective Brad Grice took up the case. He obtained numerous DNA samples from previously identified individuals of interest and sent them to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for comparative analysis. Tim and Jeff then had a meeting with Detective Grice. To clear the brothers once more, he obtained DNA samples from them. In addition, he assured them he wouldn't leave his position until their mother's case was resolved. Another volunteer was Frank Slayton, who had given up alcohol, but none of the samples matched. Then, in September 2001, a tip came in to investigator Grice. A 24-year-old guy called Jimmy Ulmer almost killed a 10-year-old girl by pulling her through her bedroom window about a year after Linda was taken. Ulmer was found guilty of it and given an 80-year prison term. The brutal attack felt a lot like Linda's experience. Detective Grice also learned that Jimmy Ulmer had been visiting a friend who also happened to reside in Linda's flat building at the time of Linda's death. Detective Grice was certain that they had their man, as were Jeff and Tim. Ulmer died in prison in 1996, but his mother gave Grice a sample of his DNA. It was a huge letdown when his DNA did not match the DNA from the crime scene. They seemed to be going back to the beginning. When investigator Grice took over a new cold case team in 2005, he persuaded the FBI to constantly scan the DNA profile through all federal data repositories. However, the years went by without a match. Detective Grice was unable to fulfill his commitment because he had to retire in 2015 due to health issues. But there was still hope when in 2018, revolutionary DNA technology started to excite the police force. Cece Moore, a genetic genealogist, chose to take up Linda's case. In the subject of investigative genetic genealogy, she is a well-known authority. Cece is the reason behind the resolution of numerous unsolved cases, many of which have been shown on this channel. Moore posted the DNA profile on the open genealogical platform GEDmatch. Then she painstakingly built the culprit's family tree, branch by branch. She filled in the names on the family tree by poring over marriage licenses, birth certificates, obituaries, and social media posts. According to Moore, her investigation revealed 3 strands of the offender's family tree, which finally led her to the one individual who was probably in charge. According to her, the 3 genetic networks combined to form a single family tree that pointed to a single direct family. Since he was the only son in the family, the dad had to have contributed DNA. In a single weekend, Cece Moore was able to identify the man following hundreds of leads, dead ends, and the investigation and clearance of several suspicions. Tim's driver for practice was a man named Joseph Clinton Mills, also known as Coach Joe. Before informing the brothers, the authorities wanted to make sure. Joseph Mills, who was then 58 years old, was living in Kathleen, Florida, roughly 30 minutes away from the crime scene, according to C.C. Moore's final 2019 report. On Linda's investigation were 2 of the next generation of Lakeland investigators, Detectives Tammy Hathcock and Russell Hurley. After looking over the initial case files, the police discovered that Mills had been interrogated at first, although for a short time. Mills informed them that he had dropped Tim off at his house and was unaware of Linda's whereabouts. Mills was found guilty in 1984 of grand theft for faking a will, according to detectives. Although he was never arrested, he was fingerprinted and had his palm print taken. Investigators compared those prints, taken in August 2019, to the palm print Sergeant Pickett had removed from Linda's windowsill almost 38 years earlier. A match was made. Mills was determined to be the most likely offender using advanced genetic genealogy, and his identification was further confirmed by a traditional palm print. Hurley and Detective Hathcock still had to match Mills' recent DNA sample to the decades-old DNA found at the crime scene. They returned Mills' trash to the police department in secret. After finding a piece of old medical adhesive tape, they sent it to the crime lab of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to be tested. When the test results were received 11 days later, it was determined that Joseph Mills was the one who killed Linda Slayton. It was only then that she could tell her sons Jeff and Tim that the monster had, at last, been captured. Tim expressed his admiration for Coach Joe and expressed his dismay at having this old picture of him. What was even more abhorrent was the fact that Mills kept on driving Tim to and from practice even after he killed Linda. Joseph Mills was apprehended by detectives on December 12, 2019. Detective Tammy Hathcock reading him his rights is shown in this photo. It was almost as if he already knew why he was being arrested because he displayed no emotion and made no inquiry. Following the arrest, Tim and Jeff went to personally thank Sergeant Edgar Pickett, who is currently 94 years old, for taking the palm print all those years ago. Mills entered a guilty plea to all charges in 2022. Linda's family asked why he was sentenced. "Why?" Jeff shouted at him in court. "Joe, I simply want to know why. How come you stole my mother from me? I cherished my mother. We were content." All were enraged at Mills's reaction. "I'm a decent person. I'm not the person they have me portraying myself as." Ultimately, Mills received a life sentence without the chance of release in February 2022. "We owe those early crime scene investigators a great debt of gratitude," said C.C. Moore. At the time of this crime, they had no way of knowing that DNA would one day be used in criminal investigations. Their efforts in collecting and preserving that evidence, and the department's dedication to safeguarding it for all these years, have been invaluable. Without that foresight, we couldn't have done our work. Jeff and Tim, Linda's sons, remained determined to honor their mother's memory by living fulfilling lives for both their families and themselves. The brothers acknowledged that they couldn't have survived the tragedy without each other's support. Living just a few miles apart, they share an unbreakable bond and a mutual passion for restoring cars. On their mother's birthdays, Jeff and Tim light a candle beside her photo and often visit her grave together, ensuring her memory stays alive in their hearts. Moving on to the next mystery. On July 10, 1998, Kamaya Mobley was born at a hospital in Jacksonville, Florida, to her parents, Shawnara Mobley and Greg Aiken. At the time, Greg was facing legal troubles, serving time for drug possession and distribution. Additionally, their relationship had raised concerns because Shawnara was just 15 years old when Kamaya was conceived, while Greg was 19. Tragically, Kamaya was abducted just 8 hours after her birth by a woman disguised as a nurse. The woman interacted with Shawnara Mobley, offering assistance and conversation, before leaving the room with Kamaya in her arms. The suspect was described as being in her 20s and possibly wearing a wig and glasses to disguise her identity. Despite investigators from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office pursuing over 2,000 leads, some as far away as Nova Scotia, none led to baby Kamaya. Neither investigators nor Kamaya's family knew that Gloria Williams was the woman responsible for the abduction. It is believed Gloria, who was in an abusive relationship at the time, had miscarried just a week before the kidnapping. After abducting Kamaya, Gloria gave her a new identity and raised her as her own child. She grew up in Waterboro, South Carolina, under the name Alexis Munico. She obtained her high school diploma from Culleton County. The Kamaya Mobley case was reopened by investigators in 2017. Then, a computer-generated composite was made to depict Kamaya Mobley at 18 years old. The media was then given access to this picture. A few leads provided to the authorities helped them locate Alexis Munico, an 18-year-old. When her DNA was extracted, it matched that of Kamaya Mobley, who had also had her DNA extracted after birth. Gloria Williams, 51, was subsequently taken into custody in South Carolina and sent to Florida by extradition. She faced accusations of abduction and tampering with the legal system. Gloria entered a guilty plea to abduction in 2018. She acknowledged participating in a 1998 kidnapping by herself. Gloria was given an 18-year prison sentence on June 8, 2018, for her role in Kamaya Mobley's kidnapping. She is currently incarcerated at a correctional facility in Hernando, serving her sentence. Kamaya still talks to Gloria and gives her mother a call. She added that Gloria provided for her entire upbringing. At first, Kamaya used FaceTime to communicate with her biological family. Then, in an effort to be nearer to her family, Kamaya relocated to Jacksonville, Florida in December 2019. The Kamaya Mobley story, Stolen by My Mother, was produced into a movie in January 2020. Unexpectedly, Kamaya revealed that she had known her true name and that she had been kidnapped since she was 16. Gloria disclosed all the details to her as Kamaya was unable to obtain a social security number. For 2 years, the truth about Kamaya Mobley's identity remained hidden until detectives uncovered it. Following the discovery, Shawnara Mobley sued the hospital for negligence and was awarded $1.2 million in compensation. However, life has not been entirely smooth since the revelation that Alexis Manigault is actually Kamaya Mobley. For instance, Kamaya continues to use the name Alexis and maintains frequent contact with Gloria Williams, the woman who abducted her. This has strained her relationship with Shawnara, making it difficult for them to fully reconnect. Despite the challenges, there have been moments of reconciliation. Kamaya once posted a photo of Shawnara and Craig, captioning it simply as parents, offering a glimmer of hope for a happy resolution to their complex story. Moving on to the next mystery. Kirsty Bentley was born on January 18, 1983, in Christchurch, New Zealand, to her parents, Sid and Jill Bentley. Her mother described her as a bright, honest, and caring young woman. Kirsty was a typical teenager who loved spending time with her friends, listening to the Backstreet Boys, and enjoying the company of her new boyfriend, Graham. She was well-liked by her peers at Ashburton College and had a notable artistic talent. Her brutal murder in 1998 shocked the community and left authorities puzzled. The case remains one of New Zealand's most infamous and enduring mysteries. On December 31, 1998, 15-year-old Kirsty spent the morning shopping in her hometown of Ashburton with one of her best friends, Leanne. The two stopped for lunch at McDonald's around noon and later went to KFC for drinks. At approximately 2:30 p.m., Leanne's sister dropped Kirsty back at her home, where she was greeted by her 19-year-old brother, John. The two got along well, and John informed his sister that she had not returned a call from her lover, who had requested that she do so. Phone records show that Kirsty called Graham at approximately 2:38 p.m., but her call was answered by his answering service. After sending him a message requesting communication, she made the decision to go for a stroll with the family dog, Abby. Her relatives said Kirsty was usually like this. The 15-year-old liked to kill time by taking Abby for a stroll. In recent interviews, John Bentley shared that while he does not recall Kirsty saying goodbye before leaving, he distinctly remembers hearing the front gates close. Shortly after, around 3:05 p.m., a neighbor spotted Kirsty walking past their house with her dog, Abby. By approximately 4:30 p.m., Kirsty's boyfriend, Graham, called the Bentley residence, only to find out that Kirsty was not home. It was at this point that John realized his sister had been gone for an unusually long time. He noted that Kirsty typically never took such an extended amount of time when walking her usual route. Concerned, Kirsty's mother, Jill, decided to check if Kirsty had gone to her workplace. However, after confirming that Kirsty had not been there, Jill became increasingly anxious. Following Kirsty's regular dog-walking routes along the Ashburton River, Jill set out to search for her 15-year-old daughter but returned home without any sign of her. Feeling more worried, Jill and John decided to wait until after 6 p.m. before resuming their search, holding on to hope that Kirsty might return home on her own in the meantime. Her father, Sid, went back home while John went off to find his little sister. Sid made a police call around 6:20 p.m. Law enforcement and the surrounding community joined forces to assist the Bentley family in their search for the 15-year-olds. They searched for Kirsty or any clue as to her whereabouts for the entire night, but they were unable to locate her. The formal search and rescue operation started the following morning. Dog Abby was discovered strapped to a tree by the river about 10 in the morning. The previous night, this same region had been examined, but perhaps because of the dense forest in the area, she was overlooked. Minutes later, investigators found two items that they later identified as Kirsty's possession: a pair of boxers and a pair of panties. They didn't appear to have been ripped or removed by force, despite the terrible likelihood that they were taken out following her probable demise. Much searching was done in the Ashburton area over the next 16 days. Even troops from the military base at Burnham were dispatched to assist in the manhunt. Two men discovered Kirsty's body on January 17, 1999, a day before her 16th birthday, in the Camp Gully region of Rakaya, some 25 miles, 40 kilometers, from Ashburton. Her body had to be legally identified by dental records because of the advanced condition of decomposition caused by the summer heat. In an area of overgrown bush, Kirsty's body was arranged in the fetal position, with her blue sarong and black tank top remaining attached. When she was last seen, she was wearing both. A coating of branches and leaves had encased her corpse. The situation was examined in great detail over the course of the following few days. Plaster castings of the tire tracks in the region were taken by law authorities, who then made a public information request asking anyone who saw any cars in the area at the time to come forward. Additionally, they urged any cannabis producers who had witnessed anything unusual to come forward. It was well known that cannabis growers utilized the region where Kirsty's body was discovered. Kirsty's skull was broken as a result of blunt force trauma to the right side of her spine. The coroner thought she would have passed away soon after being hit. There didn't seem to be any indication of a struggle, but it was impossible to tell if Kirsty had been sexually raped because of the level of decomposition. Her sarong and top remained in place, undamaged. The body was allegedly dumped in the Camp Gully area the night she was killed, according to the authorities. There have been 100 suspects in the 20 years after Kirsty died, and many of them haven't been officially ruled out of the investigation. John and Sid Bentley were named as suspects in the murder inquiry shortly after it was started, a fact that the police later verified. They both denied any involvement. Following a comprehensive examination at the family's residence, including luminol testing, the police were able to obtain no useful information. Sid, Kirsty's father, was not able to give law enforcement a credible alibi, despite the fact that they were aware of his alcoholism. Initially, he stated he was in Littleton and Christchurch when his daughter vanished, but then, he said he had struck his head on a cabinet door and had forgotten he had spent a portion of the day in Ashburton. Sid's precise location at the time of Kirsty's disappearance is still a mystery. Many family members, including his ex-wife Jill, thought he wasn't engaged in his daughter's kidnapping or murder because he was too ashamed to acknowledge whatever it was he was doing. Numerous internet detectives have expressed their conviction that Sid had anything to do with his daughter's death. He reportedly showered Kirsty with attention while she was younger, but as she approached adolescence, their relationship reportedly deteriorated. Sid's father of 2 children was allegedly saw by multiple witnesses at a hotel on the day she disappeared, at approximately 4 p.m., which is another odd aspect about her. Because of this, some forum members have speculated that he might have been having an affair or cheating on his wife. Since Sid is frequently portrayed as a stoic and arrogant Englishman, many believe he must have been hiding something from investigators that he believed would be exceedingly embarrassing or detrimental to his reputation. Sid knew he did not take his own child's life, and that was sufficient. Therefore, he felt his whereabouts had nothing to do with anyone else until his death in 2015. Some people also think Sid was involved because Abby had been very skillfully bound to a tree. Unprofessional investigators have pondered why a cold-blooded murderer would bind Abby rather than murder her as well. This has given rise to the assumption that the person who abducted Kirsty was someone who knew the family well enough to avoid endangering their dog. This theory was supported by a retired investigator who was invited to review the case. Based on the nature of the crime and the way Kirsty's body was abandoned, he said it was likely someone close to Kirsty who committed it. Others, on the other hand, have proposed that Sid had assisted John in covering up the crime, or that Sid was innocent but somehow knew more than he was disclosing, possibly even knowing the identity of his daughter's murderer. But there's no proof to support these ideas, thus they're just conjecture. A further avenue of investigation that the detectives pursued concerned a unique green van bearing the license number EP9888. The car was identified as a 1961 model that had been converted to a camper. It was either blue or a faded blue-green, with the iconic badge on the front. The last time it was registered was in 1995 with the New Zealand Transport Agency. There were only 2 vans that fit its description that were thought to have ever existed in New Zealand, making it incredibly uncommon. Many came forward with information. However, most were mistaken in their claims that the cars they had seen were karma vans. The car was so distinctive that it was simple for the cops to rule them out. After learning of this appeal, a seasoned mechanic came forward to report to the authorities that he had observed a vehicle resembling Kirsty's at the time of her disappearance. The witness was able to provide a detailed description of the van because of his occupation and the van's rarity. The van was sighted in Ashburton and Camp Gully on multiple occasions in the weeks preceding the discovery of the 15-year-old's corpse. Nevertheless, no more leads were ever found, and the precise van was never found. Authorities posted leaflets seeking information on a girl spotted near the van on Chalmers Avenue, near where Kirsty disappeared, in addition to searching for the van. Dairy owners in the Netherby suburb knew the youngster as a client, but she never came forward. Her name and relationship to the van are still a mystery. A man who killed 2 people in 2014 and an unidentified individual who was a suspect from the beginning of the investigation are among the other suspects in Kirsty's case. In 2014, Russell John Tully killed 2 employees of the Ashburton Work and Income Office. He was rumored to camp near the Ashburton River at the time Kirsty disappeared. He was able to demonstrate that he was in Nelson when the 15-year-old vanished. Thus, he was later excluded from the investigation. A location 251 kilometers distant from Ashburton. An unidentified woman came forward to authorities after Sid passed away in 2015, expressing suspicions that her ex-boyfriend had anything to do with Kirsty's death. This man reportedly denied any involvement during an interview conducted at the start of the investigation. However, his former partner asserted that he had repeatedly told her, while intoxicated, that he was the one who had perpetrated the horrible act. The suspect was initially interviewed alongside the ex-girlfriend. Since they had only recently begun dating, she said that she had no cause for concern. But as time went on, she came to understand that he knew more than was disclosed to the general public. Greg Merton, the case's detective inspector, has stated that the individual has already been looked at and that he would not comment on the woman's claims. Along with a number of other objects, the underwear discovered close to Abby and the leash she was restrained with were submitted for DNA testing in 2018. Nevertheless, no fresh information was presented by the results. On January 25, 1999, Kirsty's funeral was held at Ashburton's St. Stephen's Anglican Church. More than 500 people came to grieve. After Kirsty's corpse was cremated, her ashes were placed in a steel urn and interred in the family's specifically created memorial garden. Following Sid's passing in 2015, Jill received the urn. John Bentley, who currently resides in Australia, was relieved when officials declared in 2018 that he and Sid Bentley were no longer being investigated as suspects in the case. Surprisingly, Sid and Jill Bentley separated in 2000, but not due to the media circus surrounding them or their shared grief over Kirsty's tragic death. Instead, Jill stated that the separation was because she had, quote, grown to dislike the alcoholic I was living with. Following the breakup, John's relationship with his father became strained, especially as Sid began spreading rumors about Jill's new partner. When John confronted Sid about his behavior, it led to a heated argument. In 2008, Jill remarried Noel Peachley. Together, they now live a quiet and solitary life, accompanied by their rescue cat, Tara, and Kirsty's cherished collection of stuffed animals, which Noel affectionately refers to as the guys. Jill and John have maintained a positive and supportive relationship over the years. Leanne, Kirsty's childhood friend who had been with her on the morning of December 31, 1998, has expressed doubts about the events of that day. However, she has never elaborated on these suspicions in any of her interviews. As of 2018, Kirsty's case remains unsolved and ongoing, with no closure for her family. If you have any information about this case or others discussed in this episode, please contact New Zealand Crime Stoppers at 0800 555 111. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed exploring these intriguing unsolved mysteries with me. If you found the video fascinating, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Unsolved Mystique for more deep dives into unsolved mysteries. Your support helps me bring you more compelling content. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or any mysteries you'd like me to cover next. See you in the next video.